1. Earlier this week, I took my toddler son, 3 years old, to the local supercenter for a grocery run. He loves going and really loves interacting with people. Which is perfect because it makes store runs easier since he enjoys it. Let me start by saying he looks nothing like me, to the point that had he not been in the room with me the entire time after giving birth to him, I might wonder about him being switched out for another kid. He's extremely fair-skinned, blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm pale, not quite as translucent as he is, dark hair, gray eyes. So we're walking around and picking up what's needed, and a woman, I won't say a Karen necessarily, but we'll call her Barbara, older, mid-60s, maybe grandmotherly, starts talking to him.
Hey, sweetie, are you having fun with Auntie tonight? I bet your mama is enjoying her night off.
I'm not offended because this isn't the first time I've gotten this, so I just smile and say I'm actually his mama. We're just running some errands and having fun.
Oh, that's the boy. What pretty hair. But you can't be Mom. He doesn't look like you.
I'm still smiling when I say, oh, trust me, I know, but he's definitely mine.
He's adopted then. He's not yours.
I'm confused now. He's definitely mine. I pushed him out. Pretty sure I'd know.
Then you're to blame for his hair being like that. He looks like a girl.
My son has long hair, is past his shoulders, to the middle of his back, is beautiful and healthy, and absolutely gorgeous. If he asks me to cut it, I will, but until then I'm letting myself enjoy it. I myself have very short hair. In a faux hawk style, I should have obviously walked away, but this is a hill for me to die on, and I've had a lot of arguments about his hair with complete strangers, so this is a topic I'm ready to throw down on. It's pulled back when it's hot out, like this night, and to keep it out of his face. I like his hair. It's too pretty to cut. If he wants it cut, he'll tell me, and we'll get it cut. Until then, I'm letting it roll.
He looks like a girl. Girls have long hair and boys have short hair.
I run my hand through my spiked-up hawk, kind of rub the back of my head where it's taken down to a 2. Really? What does that make me? At this point, she took her card and walked away with one more,
he looks like a girl, and you're making him look like a girl.
I wish I knew what it was about kids that made people so weird. The whole time, he was playing with his monster truck we'd picked up. But when she walked away, he waved happily and gave a nice little, bye. I'm very pro-kids having bodily autonomy. Unfortunately, we live in a small, southern podunk town, and comments on his hair are much more frequent than they should be. As for her comments about his being adopted, I think that was just her being an asshole. If he were, and didn't know, that's a fucked up way to have the conversation with him. 2. This happened to me 10 years ago. A little background first. My boyfriend and I had been dating for a year, and I had moved in with my boyfriend and his family, mother and younger sister. They lived in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath townhouse that was being rented out. The living room, kitchen were downstairs. The 2 bedrooms and bathroom were upstairs. His mother is disabled, partly due to her weight according to her doctor, and my boyfriend was her caregiver. He gets some allowance money from this. With his mother being disabled, going upstairs to use the bathroom was hard for her, so she sleeps downstairs in the living room. If she needs to use the restroom, there's a potty chair close by so she doesn't have to go far. Anyway, on to the event. On Christmas Eve of that year, my boyfriend had gotten me a cosmetic set from Ulta. Well, his sister didn't like it that I had gotten something from him, so she threw a fit in her room, coming out occasionally, screaming down the stairs to her mother.
He doesn't deserve that gift. It should be mine.
I was in our bedroom and hearing all of this. Of course, their mother, being an enabler, shouted up the stair for me to give my Christmas gift to her daughter and that she will buy me a new one. My boyfriend was trying to convince me to give his sister the gift he got me. I got pissed at my boyfriend for even suggesting to take back his gift. Nothing I said mattered to him, he just took it and gave it to his sister. She finally calmed down after 10 minutes. My boyfriend tried explaining to me that he was just letting her have it for now, and he was going to go guilt-trip her into giving it back. That didn't work. She came storming out of her room and tossed it down the stairs, breaking the box that it came in. My boyfriend exchanged some unpleasant words with her, and as he turned to go grab the box, she punched him in the back of the head. He fell back and hit our door, unhinged the door a bit. I came out to see my boyfriend on the ground. His sister outweighed him by 200 pounds, even if she's the youngest. I told him to get up. No way in hell I, 130 pounds, can lift someone 100 pounds heavier than me. His sister went straight for me, trying to hurt me any way she can. There were no punches thrown because I grabbed her arms and wouldn't let go. Boyfriend got up and separated us, pushing me back into our bedroom. I had convinced him to call the cops. 2 officers show up. One spoke to my boyfriend and the other to his sister. Even asked the mother if she saw her daughter assault her son. She straight up lied to the cops that her daughter didn't hurt anyone. They even lied that there was no one else in the house. The one officer that spoke with my boyfriend felt around the back of my boyfriend's head and told his partner that there was a knot. The officer gave them a warning about lying to the cops, and if it happens next time, they will be arrested. Nothing came of it, though. My biggest regret was that I didn't make myself known to the officers and told them what I witnessed, but I was already pissed off at my boyfriend, so I didn't feel like helping him. 3. This was from the place I work at this past week. We work on a line, where we work together by loading parts to be painted black in a machine, and then unload to be reloaded with more unpainted parts. Temps come and go, some are worth talking about, here and there, but there is one from this past week. On Tuesday, this temp, T1, and another was working with us, T2, and the guy on Tuesday, but not Wednesday, was R. We start working at 7 a.m., and R and T1 came in around 8:30. Starting at 9 a.m., the 3 full-time people on the line, me among the 3, started our 10-minute break. Then at 10:30, R had his break. The 8:30 people have break 1.5 hours after we do. Then R comes back, and I tell T1, as it was her first day there, to take her break, but she refuses, waiting for 11, which is impractical, given that our 7 a.m. people's lunch break starts at 11. And I told her this, but she insisted on waiting. But only after several times with me, and only listening to R, did she take her break. Later on, I hear from a coworker that he doesn't like her due to him asking her to load up further down the line, so as to give him room to put the unloaded parts that were coming out, to put in the big box they go in, given there wouldn't be enough room to get around otherwise, but she refused. Our other co-worker had the same issue with her, and they told the operator and supervisor on the line about this. On Wednesday, R was not there, and I got T2, after I had my lunch, when another co-worker was having their lunch. We had a load of parts to be unloaded, and more of the same to be loaded. I asked both T1 and T2 to load further down the line for the reasons already stated. T2 waited as instructed, but T1 refused and loaded up parts as it were. I gave up, thinking, fine, whatever, I won't even bother, that's on you. After those parts were all unloaded and reloaded, a set of other parts were processed. The supervisor told both of them the exact same thing I told them earlier. T1 looked at me with a dirty look. All I did in response was repeatedly say I didn't tell him anything, but she argued, and even the supervisor told her that I didn't tell him anything. Finally, he'd had enough of her, and told her to go home. She was done, leaving T2 to look on in shock. Earlier in the day, I mentioned to her that I'd worked there more than a year, and she asked why I was acting like I hadn't. Like she had a problem with me taking it easy, as we had less work to do that day on the line. 4. So I, 20 years old African-American male, work 2 jobs. I've ran into 2 Karens in my life. First one was when I was 19, working as a substitute custodian at my old school. We separated our grade levels. I avoided the middle school, 6th to 8th grade, and high school, 9th to 12th grade. So when I was called in, it was to either go to the primary or elementary. I liked working there, as I still do. Making those kids laugh is the best, and the staff enjoy hearing them laugh. But sometimes they get carried away. There were no males working in the primary or elementary at the time, and I was told by my supervisor and mother, who works there as well, that they need a voice of authority, I guess. So this was also during the pandemic. I had just been working there for a year. All the parents knew me either by their kids or my mother. One day during lunch, the kids got a little excited and were yelling aloud. A teacher is monitoring the students, and I'm keeping watch to either clean up a mess or help them open their lunch if they can't. Anyway, the teacher was trying to get their attention, and they paid no mind, so I had to step in. Now, I don't like raising my voice unless I know them, and I knew a few of these kids. So, using the authority in my voice, I tell them to quiet down, and I put them on a 0, which to them is silent during lunch. No staff have been a problem, and were actually impressed. Except for one kid who I guess called his mother. Later that day, as I head to my car after school release, a woman stops me, and I can tell she's a Karen. She didn't have the haircut or clothes, but her attitude was ugly. Now, I have a big anger problem when someone yells at me, but I work where little kids play, so I was used to it. But this lady, I knew I wouldn't be able to get my words out. The conversation happens.
Were you the one who yelled at my kid?
I was yelling at the kids to be quiet after their teacher was trying to.
Don't yell at my child, he.
Listen, lady, I don't have time for this. Just because your kid walks all over you doesn't mean I or everyone else will allow them to. Now, if you don't mind, I'll be going. Goodbye. I left after that, ignoring her words. A few days later, I went out for a smoke break after the kids ate lunch. I was in my car minding my own business when I hear a knock on my window. I turn and see Karen, hands on her waist. I roll down my window and sigh, wondering why she was even here. Yes?
You know smoking isn't prohibited on school grounds.
That's why I'm in my car.
Yelling at my kids and smoking on school grounds, I could get you fired.
I chuckle because I never looked at her and I noticed our campus cop came around, and I just so happened to know the cop. He was one who never liked harassment. Anyway, the cop rolls up and exits his car. Karen storms over and is blurting out a bunch of rambles that I never pay attention to. I finish my cig and walk over. Hey, Officer Dudley, how you doing? He tries to answer me, but Karen interrupts.
Never mind that. This man was smoking on school grounds.
Was he in his car?
Yes.
Well, then I see no problem with it. He wasn't technically on school grounds. Ma'am, next time you harass someone on staff, we'll have you arrested. Karen turns red with anger and runs back to her car, soon returning with her phone, I assume to record us. Spoiler, she wasn't. She soon shoves the phone in our faces and records us threatening to sue and have us fired. She then smacks herself to make it seem like he slapped her. Now she's rambling on how she'll definitely have him fired. I laugh hard and call her stupid as I point above us, and lo and behold, a camera. She then turns white, and then walks away, never seeing her again. Me and the cop laugh about it every now and then, and the cop calls her a dumbass for it. And after a few months passed, she had done just about every crime under the sun. Stealing, harassment, assault, child endangerment, even eventually slapped a cop. She's now serving time and her husband divorced her. I love when Karens end up getting their karma. And this Karen got more than karma. 5. For some background information, this took place in 2014 when I, 22 male at the time, worked as a lifeguard for the pool in my neighborhood. It's a small pool with a small staff, usually only having a single guard in charge of the pool for the entire shift, and is part of the Homeowners Association. I know, not the best, but it paid me at the time, and I was glad to have some more income than what I was getting from my other job. This was one of the first years that I worked as a lifeguard, and I was pretty skittish and not fully confident that I could handle things on my own at the time. If anyone wants to know why the details are precise, it's because when this happened I made sure to get this entire incident written out and shared on my social media. So when I found the old post earlier, I figured that I would share it, since I'll be sharing other stories of my time as a lifeguard on Reddit as well. I worked at the pool in the afternoon this day, and things went okay for the most part, at first. Gave a few warnings, had to turn some people away because they were on our list of people who can't come in until they pay their assessment fee. Hooray for the Homeowners Association! Until around 3:20ish, that is, when a man, our entitled person, walked in. It wasn't anything big at first. He came in, looked for the lifeguard, me, waved that he had his pass, and went to put his things down. At the time, the pool was packed with kids, so I kept most of my attention on them, figuring the man would come over to me like everyone else when he was finished pulling out a chair and setting his things down. He did not. Instead, he got everything ready, pulled out a newspaper, and lay down and began to read. I waited a little bit before I called out to him. "Sir, I need to see your pass, please." "I'll give it to you in a minute." He waved me off and continued to read. 20 seconds pass. "Sir, I need to get your pass." No response other than an annoyed look. He pulls the paper up to hide his face. "Sir, if you want to stay at the pool, I need you to give me your pass." I said this one a little more firmly, but still kept my voice polite. He shoved his paper angrily down under his towel, got up, and strode over at a fast pace. I waited until he got close, so I could continue watching the kids, before facing him, with a smile, and held out my hand. My mouth was open as I was about to thank him when he threw the pass at me like he was tossing a throwing star, told me that I needed to learn to keep my mouth shut and let people do their own thing, and then stormed back to his chair on the other side of the pool. I should have gone up to him right then to tell him off, but I stayed where I was because I needed to watch the pool since the kids were getting a little more rowdy. Instead, I waited until it was time to call a safety break. Used to be Adult Swim, stupid name now even if I understand why we have to call it that, to talk to him. He got in the pool before I could get up, so I walked to the other end to try to catch him. He was already swimming back before I could talk to him. So I went back to the other side and waved the tube as he reached the other side to get his attention. I'd thought about what to say to him through the entire kid swim. "Sir, 2 things," I said, trying to keep my tone as polite as I could. "First, when you come to the pool, you can put your things down. But before you can sit and start relaxing or reading, you need to give the guard on duty your pass because we need to be able to check that you're even able to be here." He scoffed and turned to keep swimming. "Second, if you ever talk like that, act like that, or throw something at me again, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises. I don't care who you are or where you're from, but in here you do not get to act like a child when you don't get your way. The next time you do that, either today or another day, you will—" "Who the fuck do you think you are, you arrogant?" I interrupted him now, since I don't take kindly to being spoken to like that, and I had already told him what would happen if he acted that way. "That's it, I need you to get out of the pool and leave." He scoffed again and began to start making a scene, raising his voice, demanding to know what I thought I was doing talking to him like that, that he hadn't even done anything. "You were rude, you threw your pass." "It wasn't even a minute since I got here." "And you've been swearing at me now. You need to get out of the pool and leave." He claimed that I was trying to start a fight when he'd just gotten in. I tried to explain that I didn't approach him before because I needed to watch the people in the pool, but he kept cutting me off, and that I was acting all high and mighty, making some power play. His exact words here. I continued to tell him that the way he was acting was not appropriate, and that as the lifeguard here, I had every right to make residents leave the pool for any reason, and pointed out that it was in the rules he was given before the pool opened for the summer. He told me in no uncertain terms that I needed to back off and stop acting like I was someone in charge before I regretted it, and swam off. The words, "before you regret it," sounded enough like a threat that I went to Derek, the guy in charge of the pool committee. Basically, he was my boss at the time, and who was there at the time, and asked if I was now allowed to get the police involved if he continued not to listen. Derek said yes, I was, and went back to the man to give him a final chance. "Sir, you cannot stay here. If you do not listen and leave the pool right now, I will call the police and have you removed." The man laughed and said that was bullshit and I had no right to make threats, again saying he wasn't doing anything wrong, and I needed to stop making power plays. Again, his words, not mine. I once again reminded him that I was the person in charge here, and that he needed to listen to me when I told him to do something just like everyone else there. And that included leaving the pool if I said he was no longer allowed to be here. I think I'd become enough of an annoyance to him because he snapped at me to go get his pass, which I said, very politely though. Because of that, it may have come off as being sarcastic, seeing as I'd been stern and authoritative with him up to then. I would gladly do so. I got the pass as he got out of the pool and went over to hand it to him. He yanked it from my hand and started to step closer, telling me that I need to learn my place and not order adults around like I was some kid in charge here. I kept my voice neutral and put my hands in my pockets, making it clear with the body language that I wasn't about to back down, and told him that I was, in fact, in charge here, and was an adult as well, not a kid.
You should start acting your fucking age.
I am, sir, and I could say the same for you. The look on his face actually made me worry for the first time that he was going to start getting violent, but he merely scoffed again, said,
"Yeah, right,"
nodding at me or my posture to indicate he doubted that.
"Of course you are."
He then went to grab his stuff, and so much like someone who knows they've lost but doesn't want to seem like they have, said,
"I was just about to leave anyway."
Despite everyone knowing that had I not approached him, he would still be swimming in the pool, seeing as he'd only swam 3.5 laps before getting pissed and ordering me to get his pass. My legs really felt weak and were actually shaking as I went back, as he left, to take the pass from a woman who had come in while this was going on, apologizing for the wait. They were still shaking when Derek came over and told me that he was glad with how I handled that, and I'd done exactly what I should have done in that situation. Honestly, I have no idea how I was able to put on a brave face throughout all that. I definitely felt like throwing up when it was all said and done. It was the first time I had ever had to deal with someone that aggressive and angry while at work. I'd get to deal with plenty more as the years went on, especially during my time in retail, and it brought back some traumatic memories from when I was a kid and had to deal with a former friend's drunk and abusive dad. So a lot of the rest of my shift felt like a blur to me. The rest of the time at the pool was uneventful, apart from having to turn another family away, as they were on the list of people not allowed in until their assessment fees were paid, and were taken off the list by Derek. I was still pretty scared as it grew close to closing time because, seeing how angry EP was, I was almost convinced that he'd be waiting for people to leave at closing before coming in as I was locking up, and distracted by putting things away so he could kick my ass. He didn't. But as I was putting the last of the chairs up and bringing the equipment into the locker room, the last thing we do to close up before locking the poolside doors, a bottle did hit the wall several feet to my left, and seeing as I'd just stood up with the equipment, it was clearly aimed to actually hit me. I let Derek know this after I'd cleaned up the glass and headed home, since his house is on the way. I have no way of knowing if this was thrown by that man or by some dumb kids, but I feel like it was worth telling Derek either way, and didn't say the two possibilities I thought of as to the identity of the culprit. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 61. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I'd appreciate it if you liked the video, if you give a bit of a share around to all the peoples that you know on the various social medias. Let them know the good things you're enjoying. Okay, I think we actually have 2 birthday shoutouts today. And first one goes to Jessica. Jessica! Sorry, every time I hear the name Jessica, I think of David Tennant yelling Jessica on Jessica Jones. And Jessica is 34 years old. They do classwork while listening to my videos. Well, good stuff. Right, and the second one goes to... There we are. Second one goes to Michelle. Michelle did not disclose their age, but that's okay. We'll assume they're at an age where they're old enough to be sensible, but still young enough to have lots of fun. Now, Jessica and Michelle, I hope you folks are having some great times today. Now, what day of the week is it? It's Thursday. All right, well, take a long weekend to celebrate. That means you can celebrate your birthdays right up till Monday. If anyone argues, you tell them Hellfreezer said it was okay. You won't know what that means, but tell them anyway. Right, now before we go, I'm going to sing happy birthday to the both of yous. Okay, here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jessica. Dear Michelle. Happy birthday to you. Lovely. All right then. I think we're done for now, so we'll wrap things up. Sorry, I get high from singing. What can I say? Okay, we're going to wrap things up there for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.